Jerry, my name is Dr. Gemma Lindsay, and I'm coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. I diligently watch, and every time Pastor Jerry would say the O Earth prayer, I would always say it with a faith, but not realizing just how much this prayer was going to mean to me and my family, and how much it would save my family. On December 15th of 2024, 2 days before his 27th birthday, my eldest son worked an overnight shift at the railroad and was driving home. He was literally less than 1 mile away from our home when he apparently fell asleep at the wheel and swerved onto the oncoming traffic lane and collided with a truck that was towing cars. As a result, he sustained a very large facial laceration, fractured left eye bone, left face fracture, a left arm, upper arm fracture, as well as a fractured shoulder bone. And the most severe injury that he sustained was actual degloving of his left arm. The initial report that the doctors gave us was that they were not sure if they were going to be able to even save his arm, and they were actually speaking about just fully amputating that arm altogether. At the beginning, they weren't able to do very much for him. They took him to surgery several times because all that they could do was really just wash out the large wound that was caused by the amputation or the partial severing of his arm. So they took him to surgery about 5 or 6 times in order to do what is called a washout or an irrigation and debridement of the area. What they found was a lot of debris, a lot of dirt, and a lot of just stuff from the accident that was literally in the wound, and they needed to really get that under control first. He was put in a medically induced coma and maintained on a mechanical ventilator that breathed for him, and he was in the neurosurgical trauma ICU for 5 weeks. He spent a total of 6 weeks in the hospital, and during those 6 weeks, I never left his side. I slept at his bedside every night, and we spent his birthday, which was on December 17th, 2 days after the accident, Christmas Day and New Year's Eve together. And every night I would put on the 7 a.m. prayers, Nigerian time, but it was about 1 or 2 o'clock our time in the U.S. And I would put those prayers on every night and pray with Pastor Jerry. I would especially pray the O Earth prayers with faith and conviction every night. And I would even have those videos of Pastor Jerry's prayers playing continuously in his ear on his phone throughout the day, even though he was in that coma. Again, the doctors were very unclear if they were going to be able to save that arm. They wanted to amputate it. They said the amount of damage that he had sustained to his arm, they thought that it had severed major nerves and arteries, and so they were just very unclear how they were going to really, make it happen for him to be able to keep that arm. My husband and I, when one of the orthopedic surgeons came and told us that they didn't think that they were going to be able to do much for him, and that he was going to probably not have any use of that arm or not have that arm at all, we both just kind of sat looking at him, and we blatantly said to him that we would not come into agreement with that particular prognosis, and that what God cannot do does not exist. Interestingly enough, the doctor who we just had this dissertation or this discussion with basically came into agreement with us and said, you know what, I'm believing God with you. The doctors continued to marvel at my son's progress because he began to exhibit movement in his fingers, in his hand, and in his arm, which is something that they didn't expect to happen in this type of injury. He continued to have many issues of infections that required multiple antibiotics because he had very high temperatures. He had a low blood count requiring blood transfusions, but we still continued to trust God through it all. And the medical team also was beginning to say that they were not going to be able to wean him off of the ventilator because whenever they tried to wean down or take down the sedation in order to get him off the ventilator, he became very aggressive and was fighting them. In the utmost case, they said that they wanted to send him to a post-acute care hospital for further treatment for the tracheostomy that he had to have, as well as rehab. But miraculously, my son ended up self-extubating himself. He removed his tracheostomy and he began to breathe on his own, something that they didn't expect to happen. And so he ended up being transferred to a medical surgical floor and spent one more week there, and then subsequently was discharged home. And he was able to walk, talk, drive, and do everything for himself. Now, on July 29th, at 52 minutes of prayer, Pastor Jerry said, "Fractured bones are healed."
Any fracture of the bones, I command, let them seal up right now. Let them seal up right now. Let them seal up right now.
And we held on to that declaration in that prayer. And he has since been seen by his orthopedic surgeon and had another x-ray done, which showed that the bones have indeed healed. I give God all thanks and praise for Pastor Jerry and the work that he is doing on the altar of fire. And I truly believe that the O Earth prayer is what saved my son from an accident that could have been extremely fatal. Thank you, Pastor Jerry, for always showing up for prayer and keeping the fire on this anointed altar burning. May the ocean of oil upon your head, Pastor Jerry, never ever run dry. What God cannot do does not exist.
By the mercies of God, I decree, let laughter return to your family.